Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, board-certified criminal defense lawyer. Today we are reacting to the gift that keeps on giving, Andrew Tate. Before we do, this is brought to you by eSign.com. eSign.com. Let's say you're a couple of ladies and you're in a Romanian prison and you need to get out, but you can't go anywhere, but you have to sign a new agreement with your lawyer because you think he's awesome because your lawyer just got you out. Well, the only way you can do it is a remote signature with eSign.com. You sign up for the app, you get 3 free signatures a month. It's an easy way to do remote business. It's what I use. I use eSign.com when I send a retainer agreement to somebody that can't come into the office. And it is an effective way to do signatures remotely. And you can use it for just about anything. Power of attorney, any kind of a sales agreement, anything you want to use, eSign.com is an effective remote tool for business. Andrew Tate, his incarceration has been extended for another 30 days. So this is the third stint of 30 days. So he's on his way to doing 90 days. 3 stints of 30 days, 90 days. But the difference here, so the 2 ladies have been released. Georgiana Nagel and Luana Radu have been released to home confinement. So that means they're on a bracelet. They can't leave. They just have to stay in their residence. Let's talk about who these women are first. Miguel is suspected of having dated Andrew Tate, and I'm sure they all have dated Andrew Tate, and helping him coerce at least 6 women to create social media porn, in other words, the webcams. Both women have been arrested as part of this conspiracy, right? This Luana Radu is a former police officer. She quit her job as a former police officer in order to help the Tate brothers. That's sort of, and if she had police contacts, doesn't that sort of smack of kind of organized crime a little bit? But there is no allegation that anybody's paying off cops or using their contacts. Wouldn't be surprised if that happened, but it's just sheer speculation on that note. She had 300,000 followers on her social media, and she went by Ellie Deli, whatever. Radu is being cited before the judge in a case in which bailiff requests seizure at the source for recovery of debt. So she got some kind of a debt case going on that's not related to this. Miguel is an American citizen, and she met Andrew Tate back in 2017. So that's, 6 years ago? So there's a difference between these women and the Tate brothers, right? They worked for them, they're underlings. And so what is the difference when somebody gets released like this? Their detention was extended 30 days one time. So then this last one, they were released. The difference between them can also be found in something else, maybe. Now, I kind of predicted that this jail stint would get these women to talk. And we don't know if they've talked or not. But sometimes when people get released, as we see in the YSL case, why are they getting released? Because they do this. They start snitching. If you look at what these 2 women did, the first one, who met him in 2017, she's accused of doing all kinds of recruiting, and you've heard him talk about what he has his main girl do, right? Kind of like a Ghislaine Maxwell type of situation. And then the second one, she's a former police officer, has met him on social media and quit everything to go work for him. And she's his administrative assistant. She's done all kinds of other things for him. When you are helping somebody in a criminal enterprise, even though the things that you are doing aren't necessarily criminal, it's called aiding and abetting. So if you have an organization and you have a conspiracy, basically, and a conspiracy is agreement between 2 or more people in an act in furtherance. And if you just help the organization, even though what you're doing is not necessarily criminal, you're still part of the overall scheme of things, right? And so the 2 women got released, and Andrew Tate and his brother are still in custody for another 30 days. Now, I've talked about this on multiple times, and I still will say it again. I think preventative detention or investigative detention is absolutely violating of human rights. How are you're held without any regard to your guilt or charges. I mean, how do you prepare for a defense when you are just being held in custody. I don't think they have a discovery requirement during this phase. So they're kind of in the dark. Vidniak, one of the lawyers for the Tate's team, told journalists that they would challenge the ruling if another extension was granted. He said effectively that the defense had effectively paralyzed the evidence. I don't know what that means in the case so far, that there was not enough to keep the Tates in custody. I don't know what it means that the defense has effectively paralyzed the evidence. I think it's probably a loss in translation there, so it probably means that the defense is kind of paralyzed because they're not having access to the evidence. That's my guess is what that means. And it's true. I mean, because if you're sitting there like a sitting duck and they're not obliged to, they only give the court so much, right? They don't, because they don't want the Tate brothers to have their cronies go try to influence any witnesses that are out there. Fair enough. But so they're giving them scant information, and meanwhile they sit and they sit and they sit. You can see in the tweet that he says he'll meditate his way out of this. He can think of pleasant thoughts. He can think of darkness of hell because he's been there. But being a martial arts, Zen and mind control, really your own mind, and being able to kind of focus, I think that would serve him well in this scenario, don't you think? Because if he is sitting there in a really shitty jail, you'd have to have some way of coping with that. And so one of the ways you do that is fitness, right? And I'm sure he's probably working out. I'm sure he's probably meditating. And so to that end, I think his skills will probably serve him well. So if you look at the players in this matrix, what? Did I say matrix? There's no fucking matrix. But if you look at all the players here and who's got a vested interest where, and then how you're treated, you've got the police, and this Redu character, she's a former cop. And if you're violating a public trust, either as a cop or a former cop, you're held to a higher standard, ostensibly. You got the prosecutors, you got the judge, and you got the defense lawyers. And then you have the defendants. Everybody has their role to play. But the Tate brothers they're going ham on the Tate brothers. And why are they doing that? Why are they going after these innocent young men? Well, they're not that innocent, in my opinion. But I still think it's absolute travesty that they're jailed prior to being charged. But why are they going so hard at them? That is a question that's going to have to be answered. Sex trafficking in the Western nations, and the UN members, they all have a commitment to prevent sex trafficking. And I know a lot of you guys are saying, they could leave at any time. They could do this. They could do that. It doesn't take much, honestly, for it to be sex trafficking. So, and then you have the bravado and the chutzpah and the persona that he's so out there, and they were making a lot of money. And you don't think these cops want to see? Because guess where that money goes? It goes right to the cops and prosecutors. And so it's called policing for profit. We have it in this country, where I had a client who was dealing weed for about 8 years, and he had a $2.3 million house. He had to give his house up so he could stay out of jail, because the money was all illegal, and his home was all bought with illegal funds. So when you have in webcam business by itself is not illegal. But sex trafficking and tax evasion, money laundering, and whatever other things that they can tag on, that stuff is. So if any of that stuff is the reason that they, or the source for the purchases that they made, they can seize those assets. And they took a bunch of cars. If I'm Andrew Tate's lawyers, I am doing whatever I can to find out two things. Are these girls snitching? And they may not be any way for them to do that. But if their lawyers won't, if they're not all working as a team, because when you have lawyers, co-defendants, like I tried a sex trafficking case, we had 5 lawyers, we all had our client, and it was a massive conspiracy, and we all worked together, so we all knew we weren't snitching on each other. So as their lawyers, first thing I would do is okay, now that they're out, are they snitching? And if they don't want to talk, and if the lawyers aren't working together, they probably are. So that's one thing. The other thing is his team has got to be digging up as much dirt as they possibly can on the alleged victims, because there's a whole bunch of ways you can try to discredit them. And if they don't try to discredit them, they're toast. But I guarantee you, they're going to try to discredit them. And they'll do that by presenting evidence of either prior false allegations, or they're going to try to present evidence of, that they could come and go as they pleased. Yeah, and it's not just that. There's and their evidence of their greed. I mean, they're there. Why are they there? They're there to make money and be famous. They're there to be around Andrew Tate and suck up that atmosphere, among other things. So my sense on this is that this is going to be a really interesting trial as this thing progresses. Oh, Andrew Tate was just released. No, I'm just kidding. This has been our reaction to Andrew Tate and the news that he has been detained yet again for another 30 days. And here's what happens with a guy like Andrew Tate. And now maybe he's solidly behind his lawyer. I would bet not. I would bet that there's some friction going on there. Why the fuck am I not released? Why am I not driving my Bugatti? I guarantee guys like Andrew Tate, they don't take no for an answer from anybody, including a lawyer that gives them bad news. But I haven't heard a whole lot of riffs between his lawyer. I just see him hiring the human rights lawyer for really what amounts to more of a PR campaign, because she's not representing him in court. So we'll follow this, and then we'll look back on it, as time, see how my predictions live in history. They generally are pretty spot on. So we'll follow this. We'll see you next time on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers. Follow us on Instagram, subscribe, follow us on Twitter, sign up for Patreon, and we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, board-certified criminal defense lawyer, real board-certified criminal defense lawyer. I am board certified by the National Board of Trial Advocacy and by the Minnesota State Bar Association as a criminal trial specialist and a criminal law specialist. Why is that important? It's important because when I analyze something, it's with 25 years of trial experience, okay? And that means I've experienced all kinds of different trials, white collar, all the way through murder one. So today we're reacting to Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate's appeal for detention was rejected by the judge today. And let's talk a little bit about this case. But before we do, this is brought to you by eSign.com. eSign.com. Let's say you're an international human rights lawyer and you get contacted by Andrew Tate and he's in jail, you're over here, and you have to have him sign a retainer agreement. Well, you send it over to the jail, e-sign it. E-sign is an excellent way to sign documents remotely and get business done fast. 3 signatures a month. Download the app, and it's an awesome way for you to do business remotely. Now, Mr. Tate added Tina Glandian to his legal team. I told you this was going to happen. I said he's not happy with his current situation, so he's going to try to do whatever he can to get like a rat in a cage, because he's panicky, and you got to get out of there, right? Now, let's just talk about this a little bit. Now, Andrew Tate has not been charged with a crime yet. He's on preventative detention, basically, because they thought he was going to run. And we don't have that here in the United States. So you get brought into court, or you get arrested. Within 36 hours, they have to bring you in front of a judge. Okay, in some states it's 48, but mostly they have to bring you in before a judge within 36 to 48 hours. Once they bring you in, the judge has to do one of 2 things. You have to be charged with a crime and then offered conditions of release. Unless it's federal, and there are certain kinds of federal crimes, and certain states favor detention on certain crimes. but you're at least charged so you can start defending yourself. So, as you know, I'm not the biggest fan of Mr. Tate, but you know what I'm not a big fan of? I'm not a big fan of preventative detention. So they extended it another 30 days. So that's 60 days he's being held in jail without bail and without even being charged with a crime. I think that's wrong. I absolutely think that's wrong. So he's brought this Tina Glandian, who's an international human rights lawyer, I guess. She rose to fame with Mike Tyson and Chris Brown, a couple others. So they have appealed the last detention order from the judge, and it was just denied today. So where are we at with? So let's just kind of recap what's happened to Mr. Tate. So the two of them, the two Tate brothers and the two ladies, were arrested in their Bucharest home on December 29th. So that gives you kind of a time frame about where he's at. So the next day, the court made a ruling on December 30th that they are in detention. So they appealed by January 10th, that first order of detention. Well, then on January 15th, they took all of his luxury cars. Then the judge extends their detention on January 20th, and then today the judge denied the appeal. One of the rationales the judge gave for denying the appeal was a systematic psychological control and threats of constant physical abuse of these ladies. The judge isn't just making that up. The judge is using the information he gets from the prosecutor to make that determination. He should be charged by now. He should have been offered some bail. And if he wasn't offered bail, if they were decided to detain him, like they can do in the federal system for sure, then you still have the right to have a detention hearing and to try to overcome that presumptive detention. But he's not been offered that. So, despite whatever I like or dislike, I don't like the way he's being treated. I don't like the fact that his natural human rights, the rights that we take for granted in this country, because you have a right to bail, you have a right to have speedy proceedings, you have the right to be brought in front of a judge and face your accuser. You have all these different rights, and it doesn't seem like he's getting those rights observed. And that's one of the reasons that he brought this Tina in. This Tina Glandian, she represented Mike Tyson and Chris Brown, and she specializes in international human rights. So it probably is a good idea to bring her in, but it didn't help. She alleged that outside pressures had an impact of the case, but she didn't say what those outside pressures were, and she indicated that the system has failed. She uses those kind of grandiose, but I think she's right, though, in all honesty. So Tina Glandian is bringing a different approach, and she's talking about, more on the grand scale of where Romania is in the grand scheme of things. So, like I said, in the United States and other countries, you're afforded certain rights, and we take those rights for granted, and those rights but they're the bedrock of our criminal justice system. And they're the bedrock of, England's criminal justice system and some of the other modern Western nations. So what she's doing, she's talking about the outside pressures, but she's also talking about, how Romania is part of the EU and they're trying to get into the fold, but they're not really having the same criminal rights that a defendant is supposed to have, or they're not observing the rights that a criminal defendant is supposed to have. One of the things that the judge used, he said, the capacity of the defendants to exercise permanent psychological control over the victims, including by resorting to constant acts of violence. So the judge has ordered that the detention is extended to February 27th. So that's almost 60 days. Almost 60 days without being charged. I just, I suppose the argument is that if he's out, he can destroy evidence, he can manipulate witnesses, that kind of thing. But we don't do it like that. It's not vanilla sky. We don't do this preventative detention stuff. We just don't do it like that. When you look at the complexity of what they're dealing with, it is a big case. No matter how you slice it. You've got all kinds of different aspects to it. You've got sex trafficking, you've got sexual assault type allegations, probably some tax evasion type stuff, money laundering, and then you got his own statements where he says he's in with kind of the mafia of Romania. So we don't know exactly what they know, but we do know that the judge has it in his head that there's a systematic control of these women, and it's focused on violence to control them. So with that said, let's look to the February 27th date and see what happens then. The Romanian authorities have said that they can ask for up to 180 days. So I can't imagine being held for 6 months without charges. So for those of you who are Andrew Tate fans, and I know there are a lot of you out there, I agree with you that this is an outrage that he has not been charged yet and that he has not been afforded any kind of bail argument. The judge has reviewed his detention, but hasn't really offered him any kind of relief. And not that... And so those are the rights that we are used to. Those are the rights that we have taken for granted. Those are the bedrock principles of our criminal justice system. You're guilty only after proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, in front of a jury. Otherwise, you're presumed innocent. And I don't think he's getting that presumption. So, this has just been my quick reaction to the recent news that Andrew Tate is being held. He's being held until February 27th. They extended it another month. And he's been denied his appeal. So we'll keep following it and give it to you straight. We'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. Make sure you subscribe, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, and give a shout out to JLap and Percy Mack, because that's our intro and our outro. They're the two nicest guys on the planet. And guess what? By the time we get to 1 million, we're going to have a show in Vegas with Percy Mack and JLap. We'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, board certified criminal defense lawyer. And today we are reacting to Blueface. Now, before we get to that, what are we sponsored by? We are sponsored by eForms.com. That's eForms.com. What did I say? I said eForms.com. Now, eForms.com is an excellent place to get any kind of legal form, no matter what state you're from, no matter what kind of issue you're looking at. Let's say, for example, you and your mother decide to open a CBD farm, and you need a business agreement because you don't really trust your mother all that much. Well, you can get a partnership agreement to make everything fair, and so you can have that agreement in place so you don't have to worry about her ripping you off. Although, if it's your mother, she's probably just a fine lady. Anyway, eForms.com, if you need a business agreement, you need a bill of sale, you need a power of attorney, whatever you need for your legal, don't hire me. Why would you hire me to do that? Because guess where I'd go? I'd go to eForms.com, and you do that, and you can cut me out of it and save a ton of money. I almost said something else. And also, if you look at the link for Bonfire down below, remember we've got all this merch, and guess what's coming up? Christmas. Stop Self-Stitching Gear is the best thing you can get for any of your people to get that message out there. So go to Bonfire, click on the link. So, now today we're reacting to Blueface. Now, let's talk a little bit about who Blueface is first. Blueface is a rap artist, and he was kind of an offbeat, and when I say offbeat, I mean not your typical rhythm type of artist, and he kind of blew up over the song Thotiana, T-H-O-T. You know what that means, that hole over there. And he sort of kind of went whole hog on that thought stuff. Anyway, and he started making some music, and he started getting into some weird shit, okay? He did this really weird thing where he had all these women that he didn't pay and tried to do this subscription OnlyFans type page where you got to watch these chicks fight and this Christian rock. And every one of them had to have a freaking tattoo, and he makes statements like, any bitch of mine has to be completely subservient or something like this. Guess what that sounds like? What does that sound like to you? That really sounds to me a lot like R. Kelly. I mean, it just sounds like it. It's ripe for all kinds. I mean, somebody broke a leg. They're constantly fighting. He and Christian Rock are kind of always fighting. And so go to Patrick CC. He's got a good recitation of where he's been and where he's going. And it's just his whole history. So Blueface allegedly opened fire on a vehicle in Vegas. Now, we're going to watch this video and react to it a little bit here. And he got arrested for attempted murder. So this whole thing with Blueface started by a bad joke. And the bad joke, well, an insult, probably. He said he was talking to some family members in a cheap car, whatever the joke was. He and his crew didn't take too kindly to it. And then the man tried to take off in his truck, and pop, 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 pop. He went after him. So we'll play the video of what happened and kind of analyze this in terms of what he's looking at. So you see him. So that's Blueface right there. And if you look right there, you can see the outline of his gun and his belt. I don't know if he's got any prior record that prohibits him from having a firearm. I don't think so. But here he is in Vegas, outside of a strip club with a firearm. So you can see the outline on his belt. And the truck pulls up. This is the truck in question. You see where the arrow is? That's the muzzle flash. It's highlighting the muzzle flash. You see the woman running out of the car because she doesn't want to be around any of that gunfire. So we see, this is just a replay of the same thing. You see Blueface walking out of the club, walking across the street. And this guy gets in his car, and he's driving in front of the club. You'll see the pickup pulling up, or the truck coming up in a minute. And he stops. Now you see the muzzle flash. Now let's back that up just a little bit. Let's replay that. The truck pulls up. Now, immediately when the truck pulls up, Blueface and his buddies were over there doing whatever, and all of a sudden they see this guy in the truck come. Now, if I'm Blueface's lawyer, this car immediately kind of goes to the left. One could argue that it looks like he's trying to run somebody over, because why isn't he just going straight? Blueface is now firing as the vehicle is getting closer to him. Yeah, and he goes over the curb. So if I'm Blueface's lawyer, this is a case of self-defense, because what is a vehicle if not a deadly weapon, especially when it's used in a manner to threaten somebody else? There's two different types of defenses in a case like this. When it comes to self-defense, there's either stand your ground or duty to retreat. So, but in any event, no matter what kind of situation you're in, you have to have reasonable force. All right. So if the jury doesn't think it's reasonable that what you did, then your self-defense is not an option. But in my opinion, looking at this, this is the first time I've seen this video, so I don't know all the background to this except for what I'm telling you here now. It looks to me like that pickup or that truck is going to the left and like almost targeting Blueface. And so what does he do? He fires into the vehicle.
Face right here, yo. That's Blueface. The undercover cops just pulled up on him, bro. They got him. I don't know what the fuck's going on. Look, that's Blueface right there. And Krayshawn.
There's Blueface getting arrested. He's with his sweetheart, who's got multiple tattoos of him. By the way, ladies, don't put your boyfriend's neck or face on your neck, ever, or on your face, or on your whatever. Don't do that. No, because you may not be with that guy. All of a sudden, that guy's going to town on you, and he's looking at some other guy's face. Who wants that? Nobody wants that. All right. Anyway, so this is Blueface getting arrested on the street.
They just got his ass and threw him down.
Get the fuck out. Head up. Yo, chill out. Everybody relax.
And and he's on the ground, but that's on a felony arrest that is, based upon an attempted murder or based upon a firing of a weapon. They're going to take him down hard because they're not going to give him an opportunity to pull his weapon. Notice these guys are in plain clothes. There's usually a team in most jurisdictions. It's called a VCAT team, Violent Crime Arrest Team. And what they do is, they get the warrant and they're responsible for arresting people on felony violent crimes. And so those are much different than, say, insurance fraud, where there's no weapons involved in insurance fraud, right? So those guys generally get a summons, and unless it's like a federal thing that's much larger. On a case like this, though, where there's a firearm, and the guy probably has a firearm on him, or might have a firearm on him, they're going to treat it like a combat situation, sort of, and subdue him with force, so he doesn't have any opportunity to put the lives of the officers at risk. And so the guy who's narrating this, who's saying, "What are you doing, man? What are you doing? Hey, you could have talked to him, blah, blah, blah." Well, he's got no idea that they have this arrest warrant. He's got no idea what this is all about. And sure, were they rough with him? Did they take him to the ground? Yeah, but it doesn't look like they were overly rough, because he got up right away and now he's on to court. So let's see what happens. Now this is actually kind of interesting because we have the scene, right? Now we have the arrest. Let's go to court.
Recall. All right, I'm asked to recall a case from the in-custody calendar.
Now, they don't call him Blueface. They call him by his given name. And so within 36 or 48 hours, they have to bring you in front of a judge. And this is called your initial appearance. At the initial appearance, there's two things that happen. They read you the complaint on the record, and then they, if you want that, otherwise you can waive it. Generally, you waive the reading of the complaint. And then they determine conditions of release. So in this case, bail and probably no contact with the victim.
Jonathan Porter, 22CR049567.
See that 22CR049567. That's the court file number. If you wanted any information about that, you could go online and look that up.
Is your true name Jonathan Jamal Porter?
Yes.
Mr. Porter, the state has filed a criminal complaint charging you with attempt murder with use of deadly weapon, discharging firearm at or into occupied structure or vehicle. These are two felony offenses. Did you receive a copy of that criminal complaint this morning?
Yes.
So now here's the thing. If he's firing into that vehicle because that vehicle is driving his way and trying to run him over, that's a valid self-defense claim. And that's kind of what it looks like to me.
The counsel here, our next different counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Christina Volatile, getting famous, Lisa Rasmussen on behalf of Jonathan Porter. We've had the opportunity to meet with our client here on this morning.
Counsel, I can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll go ahead and take over. We met with Mr. Porter. He lives in Los Angeles. We asked that reasonable bail be set. Obviously allegations in this case are of the nature that bail would be set in the ordinary course, so we ask that happen. We'd also...
In some cases, she just said that bail would be set in the ordinary course. What that means basically is that this is the type of case where you would get bail. There are some cases in some jurisdictions where you don't get any bail. In federal court, for example, you're charged with multiple conspiracy counts and you have prior drug cases. It's a rebuttable presumption that there is no bail. So you're detained while the case is pending.
Agree to no contact with the victim in this case. It is a habeas case.
Well, let me hear the state's position on custody status, and then I'll hear further representations from defense counsel.
And Your Honor, the state will be requesting bail in the amount of $75,000. According to the NPR, the defendant is a moderate risk to the offend. It looks like he does not really have ties to the community he lives in.
So the state's asked for $75,000. Now I'm not sure. I haven't seen this yet either. So we're kind of watching this for the first time, both of us. So $75,000, if it's a bond, I mean you have to come up with 10% of that and then collateralize it. So that wouldn't be that much. But if it's $75,000 cash, that's quite a different story.
In California, he also has a bench warrant issued out of Good Springs in case 20MCG006161. He also does have a prior misdemeanor conviction. The instant offense and charges here are violent in nature. The defendant, during the course of an argument, pulls out a gun and shoots at a vehicle that's actually driving away. So
that really, if you look at the video now, I don't know what the people are going to say who are the witnesses, but if you look at it, it looks like the vehicle is not really just running or driving away. It looks like he's trying to drive into him.
Based upon the nature of the charges in this case, the defendant's lack of ties to this community, and his bench warrant that was issued out of Good Springs, I willing to be requesting bail in the amount of $75,000.
Right, thank you. I do see that he's also in custody on a 2020 Good Springs no registration bench warrant pending.
So when you don't show up to court, you get a warrant. And when you get a warrant for not showing up to court, guess what? Your bail kind of gets elevated because they determine that you're a risk of flight. So whenever you analyze bail, there's two things: risk of flight and danger to the public. You got a violent crime here, and you got somebody from out of state who has a bench warrant.
Bench warrant return on next different case.
So, Your Honor, obviously that's a traffic ticket and it's a registration offense, so that we can deal with through the Good Springs court. I mean, obviously he's entitled to bail on that, right? And I don't necessarily think that the $75,000 bail is inappropriate. I think 50 would also be appropriate. He does live in Los Angeles. He's willing to agree that he would only come to Las Vegas for the purposes of resolving this court hearing in this case. So if the court wants to set that condition, that is fine. But otherwise, I submit to the court. I think $50,000 is equally appropriate.
Okay, thank you.
And what's the difference between 50 or 75? It's really not that big a difference. But $75,000, I don't think is outrageous on an attempted murder case.
I have to take into consideration a number of factors here. There does appear to be an indication of employment that was mentioned in the arrest.
Yeah, I'm an OnlyFans page. Fuck.
In the arrest, the request for an arrest warrant. He was arrested on an outstanding warrant on a much less serious case. He is likely to be released at the age of 25. He appears to have a minimal history, if any. Looks like an arrest in 2016 and a misdemeanor conviction. It looks like he's got a number of people supporting him in the courtroom today.
That's another thing that's a good factor for him. If you have people that are supporting you and a lack of criminal history, that's another reason to give you a break on bail.
Including, I've been told, a fiance and some friends and some business associates.
Yes, that's perfect.
Thank you. I am going to set bail in this case based on the nature of the charges. The allegations are quite serious and could have been much worse. $50,000 is a reasonable amount of bail. Bail will be set in the amount of $50,000, cash or surety.
Okay, now that's what I was trying to figure out, cash or surety. So if it's $50,000 cash, then he's got to come up with $50,000 cash. If it's $50,000 surety, that's a bond, so he only has to come up with 10%. You know, it's so funny. I'm sitting there watching this court hearing, and I almost feel like I'm in court because this is very. Almost every court hearing, bail hearing, runs just like this. So, Blueface is looking at attempted murder charges and shooting into a motor vehicle or structure. But I think he's got a defense here because it kind of looked like the guy was veering the truck towards him, and that's when the shots were fired, not when he was driving away. It didn't look like he was driving away. He's 25 years old. He's now entered the realm of adult court and very serious charges. The state's got some trouble with their charges, but it seems to me that he's gotten off track. I mean, he starts the reality show with Krayshawn. He starts this OnlyFans thing. Dude, just get back to fucking music. Just get back to your music. Just get back to doing what you do best. You know, I mean, this either Andrew Tate thing kind of thing or you know, with the subscriptions. I mean, who the hell would subscribe $50 a month to his OnlyFans so they can watch chicks beat the shit out of each other? I mean, maybe once or twice, but I mean, if I'm sitting at home in my Cheeto stained underwear and my mother's basement and I'm watching these guys, I mean, come on, you do something else with your life, honestly. And any chick that would put their fucking boyfriend's tattoo on their neck or here and there, don't do that, ladies. Don't do that. Because if all of a sudden you're my girlfriend and I'm sitting there, you know, we're making out, and I look at your neck and I see some other guy's face, not happening. So I wish Blueface the best. He needs to refocus. He needs to ditch his old fucking contracts. I mean, he's done some good work and he's got some big hits. He just needs to, I think, refocus and stop with the fucking drama. But hopefully he'll mature out of that. And the average male brain isn't really fully developed until 25, 26 years old anyway. So that is all we're going to talk about on Blueface, because now I'm blue in the face talking about Blueface. So we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. Make sure you subscribe, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, and make sure you go to Bonfire and order your merch so it gets there before the holidays. If you come with a bucket hat and you give it to your loved one on Christmas, they will love you. And I'll love you for spreading the message of stop self-snitching. See you next time on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm board-certified criminal defense lawyer Bruce Rivers, board-certified by the National Board of Trial Advocacy and by the State Bar Association of Minnesota as a criminal law and criminal trial specialist. Today we are reacting to Cain Ramirez Velasquez. He is an MMA fighter, and this episode is actually brought to you by eForms, eForms.com. If you have a lease, if you have a business agreement, let's say your brother-in-law wants to borrow, $80 because he wants to go to the casino and get rip-roaring drunk and get into a domestic. Well, the only way you can get him to pay you back is to have an agreement, and you can get those agreements on eForms.com or a power of attorney. So you don't need to hire somebody like me. You can go to eForms.com and you can get your documents there. Now, Cain Velasquez, or Cain Ramirez Velasquez, is an MMA fighter. He's charged in the county of Santa Clara, California, with a number of charges. But before we get into what he's charged with, let's just see a little bit, before we get into what he's charged with, who Cain Velasquez is.
Short, crisp. Oh, look at that combo. Knocker is down. Velasquez looking to finish. It is all over.
So he is a former heavyweight champion for UFC. He is a bad man. I mean, he is just a really, really tough guy. And, my son Michael, he loves watching this shit, and he is a total MMA and UFC fan. And I have a hard time watching it because I'm a lover, not a fighter, personally. And I just think there's got to be an easier way to make a living. But these guys really pound the shit out of each other. And this guy, Cain, he is the baddest of the bad. And he's very well known. Everybody, and I think you guys kind of know about this case a little bit. But let me just kind of go into what he's charged with. He's charged in Santa Clara County with 10 counts. Velasquez is 40 years old, and he's being charged with attempted murder and 10 other gun-related charges. He chased down a guy by the name of Harry Galarte, and Harry Galarte is accused of sexually, in fact, he's not accused, I mean, he pled guilty of sexually molesting a relative of Velasquez. Galarte's mother owned a daycare, and rumor has it, or the complaint alleged that this happened over 100 times, where he fondled a young child. So what did Velasquez do? Velasquez is charged with attempted murder. He chased him down in a high-speed chase and then shot into his vehicle. Velasquez followed Galarte's truck in his own vehicle on an 11-mile high-speed chase through the city of San Jose. He rammed the truck and he fired a .40 caliber handgun multiple times into the truck. And in the car was his stepfather and his mother. And he shot multiple times and he injured the stepfather. So we'll talk about what this all means here shortly. But he's being represented by a guy by the name of Mark Garagos. Mark Garagos is a pretty well-known kind of a celebrity lawyer. He represented Mark Peterson in that whole Lacey Peterson homicide that happened years ago. I've met him, actually. He's not a bad guy. But they've got a hearing scheduled, and a preliminary hearing where he thinks he's going to get it dismissed. It won't get dismissed, 100%. But he goes after the prosecution publicly. And I've never found that really helps you. They're trying desperately to run away from the fact that the system failed Cain, Garagos said. They don't want to get into that. They don't want to try a case that's divorced from reality. I don't know why he's a very public guy, and he's always, I don't always think it serves your client to go to the media. Sometimes it does, but most of the time I don't think it does. Because he also made a claim that there's a conflict where they're prosecuting Golarte and Velasquez, in the same office. There's no conflict there at all. None at all. The public attacks on the prosecutor just don't help. So he runs the guy down, and he fires into the vehicle. So he's charged with attempted murder. He's shooting at an occupied motor vehicle, assault with a firearm. Let's see, what else? Assault with a firearm, because you've got several different people in the vehicle. Assault with a deadly weapon, 3 counts, and willfully discharging a firearm from a vehicle, carrying a loaded firearm with intent to commit a felony. Those are 10 charges that he's facing. Now, there was a case, I think it was in Texas, where some guy had molested another guy's son, and the guy went up to him and just blew him away in the courthouse, and he got next to nothing. There is such a thing called heat of passion. Heat of passion is where you are so incensed that you almost lose control of yourself. Classic example is you go home, you find your wife in bed with another man, and you shoot them both. That could be a heat of passion kind of thing. And that's kind of what this is, really. He's just incensed by the fact that this guy, who is alleged to have molested people over 100 times, to let out without bail, first of all. And think about this. Had the judge kept this guy in custody, and he's probably looking at some prison time. I don't know exactly what his case is like, but that's a pretty serious offense that requires registration and most certainly prison. But had he kept him in custody, sometimes, keeping somebody in custody for their own benefit, if it's a gang case, or in this case where, we had some really hot tempers on the other side, it probably wouldn't have happened. However, you don't have the right to attack somebody because they somehow wronged you before. So you do have the right of self-defense or defense of others when somebody attacks you or attacks your friend or your spouse or somebody that you're close to. So let's say I'm standing there and I'm watching something happen, and I'm trying to prevent it from happening. That's a defense of others. That's absolutely totally legal, and it's a viable defense. Garagos makes these statements in here that they're going to have this hearing, and if it doesn't get dismissed, we'll set it for trial. If it doesn't get dismissed, I don't know how it would get dismissed. The only way it wouldn't get dismissed is if they can somehow prove he was in Detroit. But you don't have the right after the fact to seek revenge, which is what this was. I had a case where a client of mine was raped by a guy, and then 2 weeks later, she sees him on the street and stabs him and gets charged with attempted murder. You don't have the right to do that, unfortunately. I mean, it's your impulse, right? I mean, of course it is. If somebody wrongs you, you want to take them out. I mean, or you want to get justice or revenge or whatever you want to call it. But legally speaking, you don't have the right to seek revenge. So they're going to have a pretrial hearing in September on this particular case. And after they have their pretrial hearing, the judge is not going to throw it out. I mean, it takes very little to get to a jury. You only need probable cause. And what's probable cause? Just alleging that a crime was committed and that you committed it. And it's just got to be slightly more true than not true. So one of the things that they'll do in this case is they'll have a preliminary hearing. And a preliminary hearing is when they put somebody on the stand and you're able to kind of cross-examine and you put on your own case. And if you can prove that it either didn't happen or that somebody was lying or just somehow show that it shouldn't go to trial, then it would get dismissed. One of the things that Garagos has complained about publicly is that they're not going to call Galarte as a witness, either at the pretrial hearing or at a trial, and they don't really need to. You have a Sixth Amendment right to face your accuser, and all that means is that any witnesses that are going to testify against you in open court, you have the right to cross-examine them. But Galarte is going to be just as available to Garagos as he would be to the state, unless he somehow pleads the fifth. But if he's already pled guilty, he doesn't really have anything to plead the fifth about. The other thing is that because this guy sexually molested a child, doesn't make it a defense. So you watch. What'll happen is the state will file a motion to preclude the defense from bringing that fact up. Because if it's not a defense, what the fuck difference does it make, right? And so if the defense is that, well, I did this because he did that, it's way more prejudicial and it's not probative of anything because it's not probative. It tells the whole story, I guess, from that standpoint, but it really is more prejudicial because what you would want then is basically nullification, and that's what Garagos is going to be hoping for. My honest opinion of this will get settled. It'll get settled for some kind of aggravated assault with a firearm, and he'll get a suspended sentence. That's my guess where this is headed. So, but he's a badass, and would you want that guy? Would you want that guy chasing you down? Not me. I'm a lover, not a fighter. This has been another great episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers. Michael Rivers is our producer. He puts this stuff together. I mean, he's a content genius, wouldn't you guys say? So we want to know more about what you think about Michael Rivers in the comments. So make sure you subscribe. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Twitter. Sign up for Patreon. We're doing some good work there. And stop yourself snitching. We'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I think he would be a really difficult client to manage and a difficult client to have on the stand.
War time! Nigga don't want no more.
You're just inviting violence towards you with this public display. Why not be quiet about it? Why not just, you got the strap wherever you got the strap and don't let people fucking know?
Because I got the owner of the animal saying I ain't do a god thing. They look at he wiping like a...
How low do you have to be to get some sick pleasure out of hurting a cat?
You say rough, you're not talking about domestic violence, rough.
Yeah, domestic violence.
No.
Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another fun-filled episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, your very own personal board-certified criminal defense lawyer. Today we're reacting to a little bit of news about Charleston White. I don't know if you know who he is, but Michael Rivers, our content genius, who's behind the camera and behind every idea that I've ever come up with, knows. And there's some news and some helpful information that we can present in this regard. But before we get to that, this is a word from our sponsor. Our sponsor, Step One. Step One is high-performance underwear that's made from a viscose fabric that's derived from organic bamboo. Keep in mind, now I'm an active guy. I just got done skiing 60 miles an hour down the Grand Tetons in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And while I'm doing that, what am I wearing? I'm wearing my Step Ones. Step One is got the Lycra panel, so you don't chafe, you don't sweat. You don't even know you're wearing them. They're so comfortable. But they keep everything with the nice pouch and everything's keep your goods right where they need to be. Christmas is still right around the corner. You order these for your sweetheart. You put in my name, Bruce Rivers, at checkout. You'll get a 25% discount. And this is a no-risk proposition to you guys because if you buy them and you're not super satisfied within 30 days, you'll get all your money back. But that's not what's going to happen. What's going to happen is you're going to be on the regular with these because Step One. Get some. Now, earlier this week, I think on the 18th or something like that, Charleston White was arrested and charged with 1 count of cruelty to animals and then 2 counts of assault with a deadly weapon. His bond was $31,000, which is kind of high for a case like that, really. But he's got a little bit of a criminal history. I guess earlier this year he was picked up by the FBI on suspicion of trafficking or kidnapping Asian women. I don't know much about that. So he was charged in Tarrant, Texas with 1 count of cruelty to non-livestock animals and then 2 counts of assault, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. His bail on the 2 aggravated assault charges were $15,000 apiece and $1,000 on the animal cruelty charge. So let's just analyze the first statute. Cruelty to animals. A person commits an offense if the person intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly tortures an animal or in a cruel manner kills or causes serious bodily injury to an animal, or without the owner's effective consent kills and administers poison or causes serious injury to an animal, or fails to unreasonably provide necessary food, water, care, blah, blah, blah. My understanding, and I it's not confirmed, this is just from an article that I read, is that he maced a cat. Or maybe the cat got maced by accident as he was in a fray with somebody else. I don't know what the case is. And the thing about it is we don't have criminal complaint yet because we don't know exactly what the facts of the case are, but I did read in an article that he maced a cat. The next 2 counts are the fact that he's charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Now, a deadly weapon can be one of a number of items, but generally speaking, it's usually either a gun or a knife, something that's capable of causing great bodily harm or death. And when you have a violent felony like that, it is really important to analyze that in terms of the dangerousness posed to the victim of the case. You can bash somebody with a gun, and that can still be second-degree assault or aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. And so you don't have to, but you can just brandish a gun and point a gun at somebody. And that imminent apprehension of bodily harm alone, just pointing a gun at somebody, is an assault in and of itself. Because what is assault? The definition of assault is the imminent apprehension of bodily harm. And if you have a gun pointed at you, guess what? You think you're in immediate danger of losing your life. I don't know how many of you had that experience where you had a gun pointed at you, but that's the feeling you get, and that is what creates the assault. The court looks at these, especially gun cases, and prosecutors look at gun cases very seriously, especially in today's day and age because there's so many guns out there. But typically, you don't resolve these cases without a prison sentence. In other words, you go to trial, and I always tell the prosecutor, you're not going to put my guy in prison without a trial. There's 2 things going on here. There's 2 counts, and I don't know why there are 2 counts. Are there 2 victims? If there are 2 victims, one of the things that they can do is they can charge both of those consecutively, one after the other. So you could be looking at anywhere from 3 to 10 years, generally speaking. And then let's just analyze this just quickly in terms of self-defense. If you have a knife or a gun and the other person is unarmed, you really have to establish that you were in fear for your life. Because just to have any use of force has got to be proportional. It's got to be reasonable, with the other use of force. If you're in your home, you have no duty to retreat. You have to analyze all these factors in terms of, was he acting in self-defense? Was he the perpetrator or was he the victim? Amount of force used reasonable, and was there ever a duty to retreat? And so when we're looking at Charleston White, he is his own worst enemy, I think, in terms of his mouth. And when you watch him speak, it's going to be difficult to I think he would be a really difficult client to manage and a difficult client to have on the stand because he's going to want to say whatever he wants to say. And you don't want a client like that. You want somebody who's going to do what you told them to do and not give the prosecutor any more. No more self-snitching. So let's just see in his own words what he says happened.
Y'all thought y'all got the ups on me, nigga. Y'all wasn't watching the Say Cheese TV, the DJU interview. I told y'all in the DJ interview I had to go turn myself in, nigga. We was already on top of this last week, nigga. My lawyer had already went and talked to the judge. Yeah, all I had to do was finish off my comedy show this past weekend in Florence, go do my show in Houston, and then wake up Monday morning and turn myself in labor detail so the judge know I checked in labor detail. They thought they got a nigga. No, we've been working on my lawyer and them get right up on it. Fort Worth Police Department hit me with a no bond on a warrant charge.
When you get a warrant like this, you know, you can't just call up and just get the warrant quashed. You have to actually show up to court, and then they set bond, and that's what happened here. And what he's basically saying is, you know, I knew about this. My lawyer was on top of it. We called. We told her we're going to turn ourselves in this date, which I did. And then I went and saw the judge, and then I got my bond.
So I had to go see the magistrate this morning. I saw the magistrate last night by 7 o'clock. The bond was posted by 1 a.m. in the morning. Because I got some issues with the local police department, an officer by the name of Tracy Carter, they was shifting and shucking the paperwork around, trying to jive a nigga. But niggas so many, I'm talking about half the city came.
Okay, they're not trying to jive anybody. You know, the people at the jail, you know, are busy. And if you go in on a Monday, it's probably the busiest time to try to get out. So it'll take a while for you to get out.
Now, boy, they called Sheriff Bill Wayburn. Boy, they were calling everybody. Let me tell you what happened when I got there, right? So home confinement, yeah, they tried to act like I done killed somebody. And I ain't done none of what they...
Assault with a deadly weapon is almost, you know, on that par, but not quite.
They said I did. They said I done something to two niggas. Yeah, I ain't done nothing now. Bailiffs and the marshals and the sheriff and Judge Lofton Court. Man, they showed me...
You don't want your client saying anything because he's talking about the offense now. And he's not saying anything bad yet, but he's talking about the offense. And if that's my client, I'm going to just shut the fuck up. I don't want you talking on the radio or whatever.
So much favor and love. I appreciate him. My beef has been with this one black officer called Tracy Carter. He mad because the white boys, supervisors, and superiors love me. Now, yeah. I don't think we gonna lose this one either. Cause I got the owner of the animal saying I ain't do a goddamn they cat. And then I got the nigga who hit me in the head with the gun, a killer. Nigga, he a real killer. And he documented killer. And
that does kind of matter. You know, if somebody's the victim's propensity for violence and their ability to carry it out is something that definitely is admissible in court. So whoever the victim is, using that term loosely, the accuser is, that's definitely something that is ripe for any kind of self-defense.
Trade gangster crip gang leader, and they charged me with aggravated assault because they said I chased him down with my gun. They lied.
What I don't like about this is he's already admitting to an affray, all right? So he's saying that there is an affray there. In other words, there's a altercation with this guy. The guy hits him with the gun, and then he's saying that they said that he is chasing the guy down with the gun. So let's say I get hit with a gun and the guy runs away. You don't have the right to initiate another attack if the guy gave up the attack and left.
Like a they lying like they lying. I didn't chase no nigga with no. They lying. They lying. They lying. They did call me about a year and a half ago about a cat that supposedly got maced in a video. I said, that wasn't me. I ain't maced no cat. You ain't got no video of me macing no cat. They said, well, somebody screenshot it, screen recorded this and send this in. I said, man, that ain't even real. I got him too. Oh, I got him. Oh, I got him too. I got him. Got that. He don't know what to do. Look at him. He wiping like a mother. He don't want it to be there. He don't know what to do. Look at him. I done got him. Look at him. He wiping like a...
How low do you have to be to get some sick pleasure out of hurting a cat? Now, I'm not a huge cat fan, you know, but we've got a couple cats at the house. Or a cat at the house. My daughter's cat. But I just...
When he was in jail or out of jail?
We got this call probably 30 minutes ago.
So when he was out of jail. So I got
So
1, 2, 3. I'm in the house with my manager, my tour manager, Sibo the comedian, my security, and Anthony Dewberry, and we've been together since I've been out of jail. And I've been going live since I've been out of jail with these guys. So I don't know who say y'all somebody done called the sheriff department and told them that I'm called and threatened to harm myself. I got my mama and the sheriff department online right now. Boy, they trying to get me.
That gives you kind of an idea of what they're talking about. You know, that somebody assaulted him with a weapon and that he chased somebody down with a gun. Now, I don't know if he's got any felonies in his background or any other charges in his background that have made him ineligible to possess a firearm. That would be a whole nother kettle of fish. And you'd think that if he did, they would have charged him with felon in possession. This is a video where he goes live and shows you his arsenal. I understand what the live thing is, but it's when you live your life through social media that this becomes a little bit of an issue. This episode is brought to you by eSign.com. eSign.com, a very effective way to remotely do business. So, like, say for the sake of example, you were sitting there and you decide to, spray a cat with mace and decide to hit somebody with a gun. Well, you're going to have to bond out because your bond's $31,000. Well, what do? You go to the lawyer that's got eSign.com. He downloaded the app. You get 3 free signatures a month, and you sign your life away because now you just made a bad decision, but a good decision to use eSign. eSign.com, a very effective way to remotely do business because if it's not eSign, no one signs.
50 cal, oh, that 50 cal, this motherfucking, where's she? Oh, there she go. Oh, there she go. Oh, she's a beauty. Oh, she's a beauty. Oh, she's a beauty. That's 50 cal, she's a beauty.
The fuck, honestly. I mean, the mob didn't like, displays of public things that would draw attention to yourself. Why would you do this? Especially if you have a criminal record, which I don't know that he does or he doesn't. But if he does, he's not eligible.
Oh, she's a beauty. Oh, mama, and I got the scope on. Oh, I got the scope on that big boy. I just go look down there, when I shoot it, it go boom.
When you shoot it, it goes boom. Well, that's how guns work, I mean, I don't get this. I don't get, look at me, I have a gun, look at me, I'm special. He's got some nice pillows, though, on his couch. Those are pretty.
War time! Nigga don't want no motherfucking problem. Nigga don't want no motherfucking problem. Nigga, cause I got what a bitch need over here.
Okay, so first of all, to be honest with you, if you possess that body armor while you're committing a crime, that's an enhancement federally. Second of all, you're sitting there with a Draco and a body vest. I mean, are you ready for battle? Is that the message that we're getting? And who are you ready for battle with? This just doesn't make sense to me.
Strap up, Charlie. Dion and them talking like they want football. Football playing that nigga ain't got no bulletproof vest. That shit he wear on his head, bullets go. Nigga ain't got no bulletproof vest. Nigga, I got one like SWAT. Bitch ass nigga. The real motherfucking munition, Teflon, bulletproof.
You're just inviting violence towards you with this public display of whatever. Why not be quiet about it? Why not just you got the strap wherever you got the strap and don't let people fucking know? I mean, I don't get this. I really don't get this. I get the whole, guys with stacks of money and and it's all braggadocio bullshit. But this is just this to me seems it's just a display of insecurity.
He got so many guns, he buy guns for fun.
And why are you doing this? Honestly, why are you spends a half hour displaying his firearms?
What do motherfucker we have here? This pretty baby right here. Ooh, this pretty baby right here. Niggas don't even...
Why would you show this? It's so stupid. You have a little tiny dick. That's the only thing I can think of. That's the only reason to do this. Is you're so insecure about the size of your penis. Look at my gun.
Niggas don't even know what this is. But boy, shoot 50. Ooh, that boy shoot 50.
I bet I'd like to see if he would even have the wherewithal to use it. So to give you an idea, to give you some kind of an idea how Mr. White thinks, he's playing a game on Cam Newton's podcast, one-word game.
Yep.
Freaky in the motherfucker, little motherfucker freaky. Yeah, that boy freaky. Freaky. Freaky.
Brittany Renner.
Hot. Yeah, hot. Yeah, that motherfucker look good, impressive. Yeah, hot.
Could you take Brittany Renner serious?
Yeah, nigga. Yeah. Yeah.
So part of what his shtick is just not having any filter. Just saying whatever you want to say. And I guess I do that a little bit too, but usually with a whole little bit of thought behind it, and not to be unnecessarily cruel.
Yeah, shit, yeah.
Could you have a child with Brittany Renner?
Yeah. Yeah.
Give me some free game. Like, how would you approach a woman like Brittany?
You gotta handle her rough. You gotta be a dominant man to deal with Brittany Renner.
Gotta be a little bit rough. What do you mean by that? Let's explore that just a little bit, shall we?
You say rough, you're not talking about domestic violence, rough.
Yeah, domestic violence.
No.
Yeah, exactly. No. Okay, Cam Newton had the exact right response to that.
Man, no.
Yeah, well, you asked, nigga. I'm telling you. Yeah, you got to see one of them ones. You got to.
When you have a little guy like this, and he's a little guy, talking about domestic violence, who the fuck puts their hand on a woman and is proud of it? Nobody. You don't put your hands on a fucking woman. Period. End of story. There's no situation anywhere that's okay. Guess what? Who do they arrest? Even if you think you're in the right, who do they arrest? You. They're going to arrest you. You don't put your hands on a woman. Period. You don't need to. And any woman that you need to put your hands on, you get away from her because she's not worth it. You just don't ever put your hands on a woman. Period.
Kicking her ass sometime. Slap her across her head. Bitch, sit down somewhere.
No.
Bitch, sit down somewhere. Give me a fucking break. Who says that to a woman? Nobody. You shouldn't. He shouldn't. Nobody. That's just wrong.
Man, ain't being Uncle Curtis done it, and they stayed together 40, 50 years. All good relationships, somebody got to take an ass kicking somewhere in the relationship.
All good relationship, someone's going to take an ass kicking somewhere. Bullshit. You don't... I've never been in a relationship anywhere, anytime, where physical violence was part of it or needed to be part of it.
That's the only way y'all gonna stay together.
Right, we're gonna cut that out.
Man, ass daddy. Man, everybody got to whoop. Man, you can't tell a nigga he can't whoop his hoe and she getting out of line.
You can't tell a fella you can't whip your hoe when she gets out of line. Okay. A woman getting out of line. What does that mean? Not doing what she's told? A hoe? Is it your woman is your hoe? I hate to be such an old-fashioned, stuffy white guy, but goddammit, I'm a man, and you don't put your fucking hands on a woman. Period.
She the kind of hoe you got to
So the woman that you was with, you put your hands on your woman?
I will if she take me there.
No. Have you ever put
Oh, yeah, he puts a little qualifier on it. I will if she takes me down.
your hands on your ex-wife?
No.
Okay, thank you. So all that shit that you talking is
I done
cap.
slapped the shit out my baby mama.
Huh?
I slapped the shit out of my baby's mama. Why? Let's find out why. I can't wait to hear this.
Yeah, I done slapped shit out my baby mama. Driving, bitch. Yeah. Hell yeah, I done open hand and slap the shit out of Yeah, hell yeah, I slapped the shit out of my bitch.
No.
That's my bitch.
No.
Man, you deal with your bitch.
Listen to Cam Newton. Look at his disgust. No, we don't do that. You don't.
Bitch, you discipline your hoe how you discipline yours. I'm gonna discipline mine how I discipline mine.
Okay, it's supposed to be a partnership. It's not supposed to be I'm the boss and you're my subordinate. It's not like that.
And yeah, man, you got to kick some of them in their ass. I wouldn't give a damn what now.
But I just put like, look, I'm telling you.
Granddad and them said that.
I'm telling you as a man, and I gotta hold you accountable. If I were to ever see you put a hand on a woman, it'd be a hard time for me to see that, Charleston. Just real shit.
Oh, well.
Now, I like Cam Newton here. I mean, that's sage, sober thinking.
Oh, just be willing to go to jail or go to hell if you get to infect me and my bitch. Nigga, that go my brother. You better leave me alone by me and my...
Guess what? If Cam Newton ever saw it, he'd probably grab Cam Newton, twist him into a fucking pretzel, this little fucker. God.
Bitch, nigga, you better go home. Nigga, it's me and my hoe. You better stay out of this.
Look at how skinny his legs are. Little skinny legs, little skinny personality, tiny little wiener, and no sense whatsoever.
And then,
That's
boom.
how niggas die.
That's cool.
Me or you gotta die
That's
about this
cool.
bitch.
And it's chances.
And now both our mamas sad.
The
'Cause these
Vegas,
niggas-
the
Nah,
Vegas
man.
odds got me winning that fight.
Man, this
Charleston.
ain't about no fight, nigga. We got to die behind my bitch. You interfering with me and
You
my
don't
bitch.
even love her.
Nigga, I love my bitch.
How you gonna love her and you gonna put your hands on her?
Same reason you whoop your kids and tell them you love them and this why you doing this.
No.
I don't hit my kids either. You know why? Because I don't have to. I mean, you don't have. There's nothing that you can accomplish with fists you can't accomplish with words.
You
So
tell
I-
your,
so
you
I-
tell
look,
your
look.
children, I'm doing this because I love you.
If I see a person putting their hands on a woman, I'm gonna put my hands on them because I love them.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you that ain't.
I'm
we not
shooting
doing
out
it.
anger. Yeah, I'm shooting out anger. Man, nigga ain't got no business getting in my business. What?
All right, that's enough of that shit. Cam Newton is the right one here, and Charleston White is the wrong one here. You agree with that, don't you? I mean, honestly, you know, especially when we get into this season, the holiday season, which is coming up here shortly. You know, it's a ripe time for domestic violence. It's a ripe time for anger. It's a ripe time for hurt feelings. It's a ripe time for a lot of sadness, you know. No matter how tough things get, no matter what you're doing, no matter what the situation is, do not take any advice from Charleston White. I don't care where you are, what you're doing. Take advice from Cam Newton because he's the one that is giving sage advice here. You don't put your hands on a woman. And so when you do wind up doing stupid things like that, guess what? You wind up having to go to court. You wind up having to post $31,000 bail because you made some choices that were this or that. So that's our good friend, Mr. Charleston White. Make sure that you just give love to the people around you. I mean, what's wrong with that? And I don't mean the love that Charleston White is talking about. You don't need to beat your hoe. You don't need to slap anybody upside the head. If somebody's not listening to you, take a break and then come at it a different way. And if they never listen to you, then walk the fuck away. You don't need to put your hands on somebody. Period. End of story. Done. So this has been our reaction to Charleston White and his arrest. He's got some serious charges that are prison worthy, so we'll follow it, and we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, your very personal board-certified criminal defense lawyer. We'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. Make sure you subscribe, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, sign up for Patreon, and we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers. I am a criminal defense lawyer, board certified by the National Board of Trial Advocacy and by the State Bar Association of Minnesota as a criminal trial lawyer. That's what I do. I only do criminal defense. And today we're talking about Coach to Ghost. Coach to Ghost, a.k.a. Culture Bermudez, is a rapper who was born in Brooklyn. He was born in 1993. Now, he was just recently charged and arrested in Georgia for the murder of Brian Sannon. Now, if you remember, there was a shooting in Brooklyn, New York. And in this shooting, Brian Sannon got shot in the face. And there's another individual and Mr. Bermudez who are the suspects in that crime. So, and another person got grazed on their legs. So what happened was he fled the scene and took off and has been hanging out in Georgia. Now, Mr. Bermudez, like I told you, grew up in New York. He was on parole for another shooting that happened in 2012. So he had been in prison for I think he was released from prison in 2017, and so he was on parole when this happened. So New York police officers went down to Georgia. They found out where he was, and they arrested him, brought him to court, and then extradited him to the Brooklyn District Court. Now, here's the thing. If I'm in another jurisdiction, they can't come get me unless they have a governor's warrant. So in order to extradite somebody, they have to get a governor's warrant. In order to get a governor's warrant, you have to have a warrant for somebody's arrest. You bring it to the governor, they sign it, and then you bring it to the state where the person is, and then they're extradited. They have a hearing in the state where the person is hiding out or whatever they're doing. And then they have a hearing on whether or not you'll be extradited. Sometimes, depending upon whether the case is a serious case or not a serious case. Let's say it's not a very serious case, like a low-level felony or something like that. Sometimes they'll offer you bond, and you can bond out as long as you promise to appear and then update both states where you are. That's a possibility, but not in this case. The only way you can beat an extradition is if you can actually prove you're not the person that they say the warrant is for. That's really the only way you can beat the extradition. So the 99 times out of 100, there's just really no reason to even fight extradition. So you usually waive extradition. And the co-defendant in this case has been in custody since July. Now, if you remember, we did a reaction to a song called Hit List. It's just, and this is what I'm trying to tell you guys. You know, if you look at what's going on here, this guy got out of prison in 2017, ostensibly didn't change anything that he was doing, and then is back in the soup. The charges are murder, attempted murder, and assault. Ostensibly the murder of Brian Sannon, attempted murder for the person whose legs were grazed, and then assault is just a general catch-all because when you use a firearm on somebody, that's a type of assault. And it's really sad because the teens, this kid, this Brian Sannon, was only 17 years old, and Coach DeGhost is 27. The mother said, "I didn't expect that I would have to come back to see and not see my son. I just don't know why. What did he do to cause this? The last thing I saw of my son was him laying down in a crouched position, covered in a white blanket on the road. I just wanted to hold him," she said. I just wish to see my son right now, and I just want to hold him. That's a crying mother, her only son, gunned down in the streets of New York. It isn't clear as to why this kid was shot. Sometimes in these gang things, the person shot might not have anything to do with anything, and it just might be he's an op because he's in the opposite gang, and it might be retaliation. But it's body for body, right? So if Bermudez, Coach DeGhost, shot this kid, guess what? They got him, and now I don't have the criminal complaint, so I don't know what the evidence is against him. But this case is, it's a gun case. So what's the evidence? The evidence is going to, they're going to show that, there's a bullet inside him. I'm assuming they may or may not have a weapon. If they have a weapon, they may or may not have DNA on the weapon. And the other thing that they do sometimes is when you take the bullets out of the magazine, they'll do DNA on those as well because whoever was handling it had to load it, right? So if the DNA is on the bullets inside that gun, that's a direct link. But it seems to me that they had him as a suspect early on, and then he took off. When you take off from a case, you flee to another jurisdiction. It is used very heavily by the prosecutor as consciousness of guilt. So I don't know what the other evidence is, but the fact that he fled the jurisdiction and went down to Georgia, they can certainly use that. Now, it is interesting when you look at the first line of that song, Hit List. Let's just play a little bit of that right now, just the first line.
If I shot and I miss, I apologize. I done traumatized a lot of guys. We done made a lot of mamas cry.
The line is if I shot and I missed, I apologize. I done traumatized a lot of guys. I made a lot of mamas cry. And now this is coming home to roost. So they're going to have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt a couple things. Now, we don't know who the shooter was. I don't have the information yet as to who the shooter was. But they're going to have to prove either that he was the shooter or that he aided and abetted the shooter. And to aid and abet somebody in a crime, all you have to do is aid, advise, counsel, conspire, or otherwise help them commit the crime. For example, if you're the driver, or if you acquired the weapon, or if you hand the gun to somebody and say, "Go air the place out." So to aid and abet, you don't have to do that much. But we'll follow this case. He's one of Michael's favorite rappers, And but he was in a gang, and it appears that not much has changed. So we'll follow it, and let's hope the best for everybody. All right. This has been a quick update on Coach DeGhost and his recent criminal charges facing murder, attempted murder, and assault in the murder of Brian Sandin, a 17-year-old boy from Brooklyn. We'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. If you're watching this, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Patreon, follow us on Twitter, subscribe. See you next time. Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, board-certified criminal defense lawyer. And today we're going to talk to you about Samir Woods. Samir Woods, also known as Lil Uzi. Now, he was former boyfriend-girlfriend with a gal by the name of Brittany Bird. And Brittany Bird made allegations that he assaulted her, both with a gun and assaulted her physically. He put a gun into her stomach and then he struck her. Now, the alleged incident took place at a Dialogue Cafe in West Hollywood, okay? And so apparently, as the story goes, is that Lil Uzi saw that she was talking to St. John and possibly talking about some kind of business deal. Well, that pissed him off, and he gets out of his car and tries to hit St. John, falls to the ground, and then comes up, and goes to confront him, and he puts a gun in her stomach and strikes her. Never a good plan. Never a good plan. When you act out of anger and jealousy, never a good plan. Because you know why? You're a guy. It's never going to fucking end well for you if you're hitting a woman. Period. And it didn't end well for him here. So he rolled up and confronted everyone at the table before getting into it with St. John. According to sources, Uzi threw a punch at St. John and missed. And when Uzi fell down, his gun fell out on the ground. And then that's when Brittany got up from the table and approached Uzi. And he allegedly hit her and put the gun in her stomach. Now, he's really lucky that gun didn't go off, and he's lucky he didn't have a more severe penalty. The prosecutors followed through with criminal charges. They charged him with 3 felony counts: assault with a firearm, criminal threats, and domestic violence, as well as 1 misdemeanor charge of carrying a loaded firearm. Lil Uzi had pleaded no contest. I'll tell you what that means in a minute. To 1 felony count of assault with a firearm and 1 count of misdemeanor injury to a person, to a girlfriend. In other words, a domestic assault. Now, when you plead no contest, you can either plead guilty or not guilty. In some jurisdictions, they have a thing called no contest, and basically, you're not admitting to the conduct, but you're not saying it didn't happen either. You're saying, you throw your hands up, and it essentially they allow the conviction to go through, but you're not admitting that you did anything wrong, okay? Now, when he pled to this, he was sentenced to 3 years of formal probation. I don't think he got any jail time. 1 year of treatment for mental health and substance abuse, and 52 fucking weeks of domestic violence counseling. He must also pay restitution and comply with a 10-year criminal protective order. So let's break all that down. So that means he's got to do a year of domestic abuse counseling. And guess what happens if you don't do it? They bring you back into court for a violation. And if you don't do that, then all of a sudden you're looking at more jail time, because they're going to hang some jail time over his head. I don't know exactly how much in this particular case, but that's what happens. And when you allow the government into your life like this, all of a sudden, for the next 3 years, he's got the government in his life, whether he likes it or not. And he's got to remain sober. He's got to do counseling. He's got to do domestic abuse classes. That's kind of a lot, especially if you're on a touring schedule. And you've got to keep in contact with your probation officer. You have to remain law-abiding. You have to do all this shit, all because you lost your cool. And here's the thing. I've taken flack for saying this before, but I don't really give a shit, because you never put your hands on a woman. Never put your hands on a woman. Are you listening to me, guys? Never, never, never. You walk away. This could have been totally avoided. And I'm not coming down on Lil Uzi. I mean, he may have had good reasons to be pissed off, because being disloyal or, confidentiality or whatever. But you don't go off like that. I mean, now she's got a 10-year restraining order on him. 10 years. 10 years. So if he violates that, that's another. And and here's the thing: this happens all the time. When I see it all the time, where a guy's got a restraining order against him, and the girl reaches out, and he thinks it's okay, and guess what? She gets pissed off or gets a wild hair up her ass, and she calls the cops. And guess who the restraining order is? It's against him, and it ain't against her. So who's going to be on the hook for more jail time and more felonies coming down the pike? He is. So she's got to be in his past, in his rearview mirror. No, don't look back. He should have absolutely no contact. And if anybody out there has got a restraining order on him, don't get hoodwinked into having contact with a woman who just, but I miss you. Oh, I miss you. No. Bad, because guess what? You do something she doesn't like, and all of a sudden, or you don't do something that she wants you to do, and she's being manipulative, you're screwed, because all of a sudden she calls the cops and you're over at her place as invited by her. Then you look like a stalker, and you're going to get charged with violating that restraining order. And those things are like gum on the bottom of your shoe. They never go away. So here's the other thing. Now, you don't see a federal or a state possession of a firearm in violation of an ineligible person in possession of a firearm. He probably was eligible. However, pleading to a domestic related offense, which is what the last misdemeanor charge is, and the felony offense that he pled guilty to, make him now ineligible, so he cannot possess a firearm. And guess what these guys do a lot of times? They disregard that and don't even take it seriously. Well, if you don't take it seriously, guess what's going to happen? You get pulled over by the cops, they see your record, they're going to look for a gun. They're going to look for weed. They're going to look for this. And this foray, letting the government into your life, is something you definitely don't want. So my hat goes off to him in the sense that he got his case over with. He didn't do any jail time. And really, if he does what he's supposed to do, he probably will get off probation early. That's my guess. But it is a foray in letting the government in. And so the government comes into your life. If you're not careful, it can spin out of control. And all of a sudden, you're dealing with them and dealing with them and dealing with them. I see it all the time, especially on these domestics. Guess what? Works way better than a gun. Flowers. God, I just sounded like Joe Biden there. Flowers sound way better than a gun, right? A compliment works way better than force. If you're with a woman who you have to raise your voice to, get out of there. You don't need to do that. The right woman, the right partner for you is somebody that's going to compliment you, somebody that you're going to go home. You don't have to do that. It's never a good idea to raise your voice to a woman or your hand. Period. And if you do, get the fuck out. Run away. Because guess what? There are tons of fishes in the sea. Plenty of psychos in the sea too. Try to avoid them. And women, you should never be with a guy that is going to raise your hand to you. Period. And you shouldn't do it either. I mean, it happens the other way sometimes. But the onus is on the guy, because if the two of you are fighting and the cops show up, who's going to get arrested? 99 times out of 100, it's the guy. Period. So, and they sometimes they'll just take her statement. They don't even give a shit what you have to say, and they'll just arrest you and see you later. So you're gone for the night, and guess what? You get out of there, now you've got a no contact order. You might not even be able to go home. This is why I hate these domestic cases. Domestic cases suck because they're always, wrought with emotion and with, she contacted me. I mean, isn't she in violation of the order too? And no, she isn't. Anyway, so Lil Uzi has, a little bit of a road ahead of him in what he's got to do in terms of counseling and substance abuse problems and mental health, whatever that means. I don't know if he's got a problem or if he doesn't have a problem, but he's given the government a reason to look into his life and to control his life. So domestics are nothing to mess around with, and they're not really a protected class. You're not looked at as a somebody that we need to look after. When I say we, I mean the judicial system. So you're better off being kind. And if you are so pissed off you got to hit something, find some fucking sheetrock that you don't have to repair, because that can be expensive too. So we're coming up on almost 500,000 subscribers, and this is what I want to tell you. We are going to throw a bash here in Minneapolis. So when you watch this, keep an eye out for our numbers, because once we throw this bash, we're going to invite you all. And I'm going to try to invite as many people as we possibly can, and we're going to have to figure out where we're going to have it and who's going to perform, and it'll be off the chain. So just keep that in your cap, in your stop self-snitching cap. So we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers. So subscribe, follow, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts.